What's up guys, welcome to another gardening video on my channel. My name is Bunks. Guys, I'm excited today because I'm gonna show you things that you can bury in the garden to improve your soil and to increase productivity. I'm also gonna show you the things that you shouldn't be burying, the things that you should avoid, and yeah guys, you want to get into it? you 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 want to get into let's go. Okay, so first we have crystals. Yes, I know you guys might be wondering, crystals, some of you that know what crystals are and some of you might not know what crystals are, but crystals are basically a buildup of molecules and ions that build basically this is a very powerful source in attracting things that you want basically. So if, let's say for example, this is a rose quartz and this is good for attracting love, peace, there's other ones that you can use that attract like peace, calm. If you're suffering from anxiety, you can get stuff that calm you down. You can use these things to meditate and they will calm you down. So one thing that why I wanted to start with crystals was because I haven't seen a lot of people actually talk about that you can bury these in the garden or just use them in the garden. So I thought that it would be interesting to you for it to be the first one. What I've researched is that even the ancient Egyptians have used crystals to increase the productivity of their plants. They used a crystal called malachite, and they use that to increase the fertility. Yeah, so you can use things like moss agate, green calcite, moonstone, citrine, clear quartz, and tiger's eye. So all of them serve a certain purpose when you put them in the garden. So let me say for green calcite, right? Green calcite, if you have a stressed plant, you can bury the green calcite next to it, and then it will at least calm or reduce the stress of that plant. And then we have things like the moonstone or the moss agate. That is a very good grounding crystal. It helps in assisting the roots to become more connected to the soil and also help the roots with their growth and also fertility. But most of the crystals that I mentioned help really with root growth, with fertility, with getting connected to the soil and helping the growth process, let me say, to strengthen the growth of the plant. So yeah guys, crystals, number one. I think it was just like an interesting thing that I haven't seen any other gardeners really mention, so I thought that it would be a cool one. And then at number 20 we have animal carcasses. I'm sure we've all experienced where we've had maybe something dead and then we've buried it into the garden, and then we come back and the garden, and then that patch on the garden it's just more supple, it's more, the soil is just a lot better. It's because when an animal carcass is buried and it decomposes into the ground, it acts as a fertilizer for the ground. So what I do is that sometimes I would find that baby birds that would fall from some trees, because maybe they're trying to fly and then they can't withstand the fall and then they die, right? So when I find that, I put them into the garden. And this was before I even knew that animal carcasses could improve the soil or they could act as a fertilizer or add nutrients. I just thought that, I'm trying to give back to the soil, just to give it back to nature again. So I did that, and when I came back, the soil was really nice. In this patch I buried a bird, that fell from a tree, and then also here as well, and also in that patch here. For me, I just really think it's a really nice exercise, because I just feel like it's giving back to nature. So at number 3, and sticking with the animals, we have animal waste. So basically I would only recommend farm animals such as cow dung, sheep dung, because they have more of a plant-based diet as compared to dogs and cats that have a similar diet to humans that has more of a protein based diet as well. I would say yeah man, dung, I would say cow dung, sheep dung, you know, all the farm animal poop. This I would also say that, you know, you can also just lay it as like a compost, that type thing, for it to break down a bit more. And then you can put it into the garden or bury it into the garden. And then also another way is that if you just place it as another layer on top of the garden and then just mix it with the garden, you know, and then in that way it will break down into the garden. So at number 4 we have kitchen scraps, and this would comprise of eggs, whole eggs, eggshells, vegetable peels, fruit peels, breadcrumbs, even, you know, anything that really decomposes from the kitchen. So you know, so you guys, I'm sure you know by now what my favorite kitchen scraps are, and that would be eggshells and tea leaves. So tea leaves also, I just want to add also coffee grounds. Coffee grounds is also a good resource to bury in the garden. With eggshells and whole eggs, they're a great resource because they have calcium, phosphorus, copper, magnesium, and zinc. You know, all the good things. Did you hear all of those things? All the good things. Tea leaves have similar things with calcium, magnesium, phosphorus, nitrogen, and zinc, but they also have iron and potassium. If you have eggs that have gone off, then, you know, bury them, just crack them a bit and then bury them in the garden. If you have, you know, you've done eggs, put the eggshells into the garden. Vegetable peels, you peeling your peels, you peeling your vegetables, you know, put the, instead of just throwing them away, put them into the garden, and that will add so many nutrients back into the soil, which will make it a lot richer, and will also give the plants extra nutrients that they can use to strengthen their growth. So as you can see here, we have the kitchen scraps that I have from the house, and you know, you can see that there's breadcrumbs there, there's tea leaves, there's egg peels, there's even pizza here. There's some pizza crusts, the crust, narki peels, you know, there's a whole lot of things. This is a great way to add nutrients to the garden. I'll definitely show you guys the results of what happens to the soil. Okay, so at number 5 we have garden waste, and garden waste would comprise of, let's say you have tomatoes, right? You have tomatoes, you have the tomatoes, the season comes and goes, now you're left with the old remnants of the tomato plant. So what you can do with that is bury that in the garden, and you know, that's a great way because it gives back to nature, and also it gives the moisture that's retained from the plant, you give it back into the soil. So this can be, let's say, just the old plants that you have, sticks, twigs, grass clippings, even wood, you know, wood chunks, like a big chunk of wood. You know, I would say bury those deep because sometimes it could tie up the nitrogen in the soil, and you don't really want that. What I would avoid, for me personally, what I would avoid is any weeds. So I understand that you might cut out some weeds that you don't want and then think that you can bury that. I would let that first maybe break down in a compost pile somewhere before burying it in the garden, because if you just bury it in the garden, then the weeds, you know how strong weeds are, you know. So the weeds will grow back and you will have the same problem that you had. And then at number 6, this one might throw you off a bit, but trust me that it has its own beneficial beneficial purposes. So this is hay and pea. Yes, don't please. Okay, so basically you can bury your own hay into the garden, and this literally adds nutrients back into the garden. It's a great resource that you can bury into the garden, you know, because hair decomposes, and when it decomposes, it attracts things like beneficial worms and bacteria that break down that hair and then add nutrients to the garden. And then P, obviously, when we eat and we drink things, we have nutrients in our pee, so we're giving back nutrients back into the garden. So yeah, these might sound a bit um, unconventional, but I definitely think that it does help with the garden. Yeah, what I've noticed with burying hay in the garden is that when I've revisited the soil is a lot softer and a lot more aerated. So I definitely think, you know, keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. So at number 7, last but not least, we have worms. And I decided to make this the last one because I feel like worms tie everything together. You know, we put in these peels, these garden scraps, kitchen scraps, and all that to actually attract worms. Yeah, they are the ones that break down all these things and then poop them and then make the soil richer and actually make it accessible for the plants to intake. So definitely worms are the most important thing. And some people have worm bins where they have like an ecosystem for the worms, where the worms live, where they produce more worms, so that it's just becoming an ecosystem of worms. And then you can put that on the garden, or you can actually bury it in the garden, and that will quicken the decomposition process. It will make everything a lot quicker and more accessible for the plants to intake. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll have more videos up because you know what's on the way. Spring is on the way. So I'm excited. I'm keen. So be on the lookout for more videos. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Subscribe, like, love, peace, and grow something.